So don't believe my colleagues when they say that they come from a very small country, because mine is so small that you cannot barely see in the map. So Michelle said that her country is very small, but it's still a little bit bigger than Oregon. So my country is only 1/7 the area of Oregon, but we are very overpopulated, so we have 40 times more people in Taiwan. And you see the map, so you see the photo there. So Taiwan is with lots of mountains. It means most of people will live in a gray area, and theoretically, so which make us no chance to be very lonely because it's so crowded. But it's not true. So I work as a soil scientist for 15 years, including my study on the university. I already studied as a scientist for 25 years. So sometimes I look myself like this way. So on a small island, digging soil everywhere, analyzing everything. And what I talk out is only science, numbers, graphic, and papers, scientific index. Maybe some of you knows what it means. So 5 years ago, I become a little bit, I feel that I'm not able to dig that much soil at all, because I get my back and my leg, my knee told me that I should go back to somewhere that not too difficult. So I started to study about the urban forest. And the reason is very easy. You see the graphic, you see the blue line, that's the people who live in the urban area, and you see the green line, which is the suburban area or the rural population. So now in this world, more than 50% of people, of the population in the whole world, live in the urban area. And we are having more and more people. It means that we are going to make the earth like this way. We are going to make it more gray and less green. So I'm thinking about, we might not be very easy to be satisfied to live in a livable city and to coexist with the other animals and other lives. We want a sustainable city. So what does it mean? I really don't know that much. So that's why I come here. And after I jump here and I started to have lots of study tools and connect to people who work on the urban forest, then I found that everywhere are doing the urban forest survey. So, and just like me, I did for Kaohsiung, my hometown, for Taipei, and here Portland, I visit LA, San Francisco, everywhere doing the forest survey in the urban area. And what's that? And of course, there are lots of information to share. But we found the problem around this world are very similar. So facing the urbanization's problem, and conservation and timber conflicting, so timber harvesting making the conflict. So everybody was hoping that education or outreach can save this world. But for me, is that I need to develop this concept. So at the beginning, I studied lots of things in the urban forest. Then, of course, I'm not satisfied with that. So I want to include more information inside, including the environment, the social or psychological even, or recreation and economic, all the aspect. Can we put it together in the model or the concept? So this is Taipei, so where I work and where I live in downtown. And Taipei is surrounded by lots of mountain and forest. So we have suburban forest, which is very influenced by the tourism and by some agriculture. We have lots of parks. We would take it as an island of the birds or the animals. And I would take the green belt as the corridor for animal to move in the city. And we have mangrove. So when you OF this and look at this, then I'm thinking that maybe I can take the river when it runs through it, then we can manage the forest in a better way that make the city more sustainable. But then you read lots of paper and you find that all my concepts are the study for, so study in urban area, the study of the forest functions. But there are some new conceptual model is that there are more components must be taken in. And the model makes things very complicated. So the focus will be different, the theory will be different, and of course at the end the application will be different. But what does it mean? What's a resilience? This is a very fancy word and nobody knows what does it mean. It is in our class of the scientists, we are talking about resilience, but I have no idea what that. So, and they said they are talking about design and management, and which I never touched because I am a scientist. So working for the government, I dig my soil. So I want to make it more. So I take my my trip to the very famous CAP site, which in Arizona is a desert. They have a long-term ecological research in the urban site, the most famous one in the world. So what is it? So I went there and I was wondering, in the desert, what can you do? How can you live good there? So they showed me the first cases about the terrestrial wetland. And what was waiting for me there as I arrived was pelican. So you can't imagine pelican live there. And they give me the chance, to work with them in the marsh when the temperature was above 100 degrees and put in the water. So it was very fun and very hot and very humid. So after that, they show me another case. They call it the Indian Bandwash Greenbelt case. The Indian Bandwash in Arizona is a place that when it rained, it will flood. And the flood would destroy the bridge. So the original concept for them is to build, like in LA, the concrete channel, put all the water together, let them flow out as soon as possible. But the ecologists like me and some urban designers, they found that why don't we just make a green belt, not the concrete one? So they make it as a program, as a research program, and they are very successful. It looks very beautiful, like a park. It's very famous now in the world, not only when it is raining, it get not overflowed. So these are the things that I see that, okay, the scientists can work with the manager and the urban designer together. So my concept developed further. So I'm not only working on the biology, environmental, and social aspect. I hope that I can do something more than that, but I don't know how. And then I'm here, so they give me lots of chance to visit people and to take the trips to visit different farms and give me lots of information, and all in there make here very complicated. So I think I need maybe next 20 years to digest all the information I get here in Oregon. But I'm a well-trained scientist, so I put them in order, put them in series. Some of them are with the government to do, some are with the people to do, some are with the scientists to do. So what is my ability? Well, I work for the Taiwan Forest Research Institute as a scientist, and I work for the Longterm Ecological Research Network already for 15 years, and I'm here in WFC, so I know what is a volunteer, what is an NGO, what is a government agency. So why don't I make myself a little bit more ambitious than usual to create a new site for Taiwan, so which will be an urban LTR site for Taiwan. Since I have already worked for the government and for the LTR for 15 years, I know what is the structure of that. So I just want to add one more site in Taiwan, which will be in urban. And yeah, I think, I teach Ecology University, so I can manage the scientists together. I work for the government, so I can work with them together. But what is new is that the NGOs, like 3 days, and the volunteers, which I think in Taiwan we have very good chance since children all go to the university. So that's my dream. So at the beginning, I'm just a digging dirty woman, so they call me muddy girl, and just like a monster. And I would like to say thank you so much for everybody making me reach out, and because there are so many information here, like Vamper, Adolf is here, and Hanshu, and all of you. Thank you for teaching me so many things and making me be a new one. I think now is the Chiao-Ping version 2, go back to Taiwan. So it's no more the science one. So now I'm going to pay more attention to the general public. Thank you.